welcome to today's webinar, Win Twice, How to Grow Your Business and Build Long-Term Value. My name is Gary D. Hart, and I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant, host of this webinar. Our presenter is Dr. He never says doctor, but he's Dr. Will Hall, founder of Hall Consulting, and he will share his bio in just a minute. But before we go too far, before I get into all my housekeeping items, a couple of things that we do want to find out. One, if you're familiar with our Be Insightful membership program, it does feature, and we'll post a poll here, features webinars, content, one-on-one coaching sessions with the speakers. That actually they're group sessions, not one-on-one. That's a mistake. So they're group sessions with the speakers, and you can earn about 36 CP hours a year through this program. It's $1 for the first month, $49 a month after that, or a flat fee. I think you can find it on the website for like $3.99. Are you going to Scaling New Heights next month? We're asking this because we're hosting a party on Monday night that is open to all attendees at Scaling New Heights. It is to celebrate our top 100 pro advisors who will be in attendance there. And I think last count that I saw, I think we got about 70 of the top 100 who will be top 125 and 50 who will be present. So it should be a good event. It is somewhat limited seating. There's like 350, I think, total that the facility can take. So we'll send you some information if you are going to be there, and we hope that we will see you on site in Orlando. Well, that wraps it up for my intro as far as all the housekeeping stuff. I do want to preface this seminar with one thing. Some of what Will is presenting, he's walking you through processes. And this is processes that we're going through with Will. At least we've kind of gone through kind of on a high level with Will. And I will say in the 1 month or so that since we first started this process, we have seen great impact in just the little bit that we've done. And it's been painful because getting systems and structure in place for a group of people, a company that are literally spread around the globe, time zones, and we're in multiple time zones. That part has been very difficult, but having the structure and the rails that he's laying out and that he'll explain to you as he goes through this process, for us, again, in the month or so that we've been doing it, has been beneficial. It hasn't completely transformed our company yet, but it is definitely getting us all pointed in the right direction. And that for us is a huge win. So kind of going on your title here, Win Twice, with that ultimate goal of it building that long-term value. So listen up to what he has to say. I am a believer in it, and he's going to also talk to you about an opportunity that we're trying to pull together of a cohort that he'll be leading, following this structure of what he's presenting. So I'll be shocked if you don't get something out of this presentation, because I have seen it and we're going through it now. So Will, thank you so much. I'm going to be in the background, camera off. Give me a shout if you need anything.
Perfect. All right, thanks for joining, folks. I really appreciate the chance to get to share this with you. I think Gary initially came to a 4-hour seminar. This is also an 8-hour seminar that I do. I put it down to 4, and then I presented to Vistage probably about 6 weeks ago here in Atlanta, and a 45 minutes. So I'm presenting to you, which is very, very condensed. But what I did is try to pull together things that I think are very actionable for you walking out today to give you something that you can go do in your business that'll move your business forward. And so the title, Win Twice, How to Grow Your Business and Build Long-Term Value, that came from some conversations with some business owners about all of the frustrations of running a business. I work a lot with physician practices, consulting practices, things like that. And, people start a business for a lot of different reasons. They want to, more control over the product, more freedom, those kind of things. And then it's easy to get pulled into the minutia, the weeds, the firefighting of the day. And specifically was talking with a physician, and we started talking about his exit plan. Guy's early 50s, and he said, I don't really have an exit plan. I don't even know what that looks like. I'm going to retire and sell the practice. And I said, well, look, what you do today is going to impact that in 10 years from now, and he said, I'm just trying to get through today, right? We have the same issues. And I said, well, if you'll fix your things today, you'll actually win twice. You will win today, and 10 years from now or 20, whenever you decide to hang it up, you're going to build more value in your practice. And so it really kind of stuck for him to, hey, you can win. It does not have to be, churning all the time. And so I'm grateful to get to present with you for you guys today, partnering with Be Insightful, and just giving me the opportunity to share with you. And so we're going to talk about scaling up, and scaling up is a business system that let's see, there we go. That looks at people, strategy, execution, and cash. And it says, hey, every business has these four things inside it. And it doesn't matter what the business is, you can think about that: people, strategy, execution, and cash. And I always share this, from Alice in Wonderland. She gets the fork in the road. She sees the Cheshire Cat and says, well, which road do I take? And he says, well, where do you want to go? She says, well, I don't know. And he says, well, then it doesn't matter. And, I use that as kind of a metaphor in business as I talk to business owners and just say, hey, what system are you running your business on? Where do you want to be in 5 years? A lot of people have kind of a sense of what they want to do and where they want to be in a few years. Some actually don't. But then when I ask, what system are you using to run your business? And the answers are funny. It's guy told me not too long ago, he said, our system is whack-a-mole and we do it all day, every day. And I said, gosh, man, that's got to wear you out. He said, yeah, we're $250 million company and that's what we do all day. And it's just, it's like your operating system on your phone, right? It gets updated, but it's got something in the background. And so that's what scaling up is. It's an opportunity to have a system for you to run your business. And so we've talked about that: people, strategy, execution, and cash. And what I did today is I put together a tool in each of these that I think will help you walk away and have something that you can use to run your business. And I think you're going to get uh, PDFs of the tools that I'm going to share. I think, we're going to send you the PDF of the whole presentation as well. Um, Hopefully that'll be helpful for you. So a little bit about me. I did go to a physical therapy school. I treated patients for years. I did a doctorate as well, as Gary mentioned, but I did my doctorate more around leadership and how to use emotional intelligence and leadership in building a healthcare practice. Um, and so my career kind of took the business track. I ended up as a regional VP of two national physical therapy companies. Helped sell one to a public company, helped sell another, from one private equity to the next. I did a healthcare startup with direct primary care called Hip Nation here in Atlanta. We're now in about 6 or 8 states. I've run an urgent care practice and then a multi-state orthopedics practice as well. And the common denominator in here is I use those scaling up tools that you're going to learn throughout every one of those. I was a physical therapist treating patients, treating in one clinic, got an opportunity to lead 2 other clinics, and they were not, they weren't thriving, weren't doing great. And I came across scaling up. And for me, who hadn't had a business class, it became very clear, hey, this is how to run a business. And, it's very, very similar to physical therapy and treating a patient. It's, running a business is pattern recognition, what's working, what's not working. Let's do more of one thing and less of the other. And so I'm a certified scaling up coach. I've used these tools for 18 plus years. There's about 200 of us around the world that are certified as scaling up coaches. And what we've put together for you guys, and I wanted to put this out in the beginning so you could kind of be thinking through, hey, is this something that might be helpful for me to do? So in conjunction with Gary and the Be Insightful team, we're putting together a 12-month mastermind group. And what we'll do is we'll put 8 companies together, and I coach really big companies with this, up to, a couple $100 million of revenue down to probably around 10. I know most of the folks on here are not at $10 million, but I so believe in this. When we did the startup, I used scaling up and the tools. We were pre-revenue. I was raising funding and we were pre-revenue, and I used these tools to put in place our our BHAG, and our 5-year plan. And so this is a way to get this to you guys in your businesses, and get a bunch of the same teaching and training, but in a way that makes it affordable and produces I think, a great environment. So we'll do a monthly 4-hour Zoom call, group setting focused on education, goal setting, and accountability. The foundation will be the scaling up system. So these tools that I'll share with you today, there's 30 plus tools, but we will really come together and put our minds together to help us be the best we can be. I'll also, out of that, do a 45-minute one-to-one coaching call per month for the company and whomever you would want on that for your specific issues, specific things you're working on. And then a monthly 1-hour book club that you can open to all of your employees, designed to build your culture and develop leadership across your organization. And you'll see why that is so important. We're going to start in August of 2025. We'll go through August of 2026. Registration is going to be due by mid-July, and the Be Insightful team will answer your questions around that. It's $1,000 per month, a 12-month commitment, and we'll get going. And I think you'll see today there's just tremendous value in that. And as Gary said, in four weeks, they've seen some progress there. And, I love these. I do a weekly call with all my CEOs or presidents, whomever I'm working with. And I love to hear week after week the things that they're seeing that is different in their business. And so think about that, have that in the background of your gray matter as we're going through, to say, okay, is this something that I think might be useful? So we're going to jump in. Business is pretty simple, right? There's only two demands, and it's a little tongue in cheek, right? Because there's only really people and processes, except people is employees, customers, shareholders, vendors, everybody that you have to interact with. All those plates have to spin. And then you've got processes, all, making, buying, selling, delivering what you've said you're going to deliver to your customers, keeping accurate records, those kind of things. And so it's a little bit tongue in cheek to say it's only people and processes, but if you really distill it down, that's what you have to do well to have a successful business. And what scaling up is an operating system that helps you kind of codify your business, where you're going, what you're working on. So this is a slide that Scaling Up kind of puts out and says, of 28 million firms that started in this time period, 96% of the firms never make it over $1 million. And you can look at that, about 4% will make it over $1 million. You go out further out, about 0.4 will make it over 10 million. And then you kind of go out. And then what do you see is this valley of death? What that is, it's the old saying, it's a book Marshall Goldsmith wrote, what got you here won't get you there. And it becomes the entrepreneur, the business owner. You can't spin all those plates on your own, and then there's no infrastructure. And so that's when things kind of fall apart. And so the business that I mentioned, we started with Hip Nation. We started with Scaling Up tools. We were pre-revenue and not hired one physician yet, but we put a one-page strategic plan together, and within, I think, about 2.5 years, had grown that just shy of $1.5 million using the exact same tools that you're going to see. So limiting constraint. This is the way I think about business. In my career, as I've been able to support different states and different businesses, I would think about the scaling up system. And if there's 4 of these areas, what is the limiting constraint today? Is it people? Is it strategy? Is it execution? Or is it cash? And you'll see at the bottom, each of Scaling Up, each section usually will have a question or two that really helps distill it down and helps you think more focused about your business. And so if you think about that, a lot of times, which of the 4 decisions is holding you back, business owners can say immediately, oh, it's this, it's cash. We don't, our cash flow is not where it should be, or, execution and whatever it may be. So thinking through that. Here's the book. This is the book that I came across. I was running that one clinic, got a chance to run 2 more, and then was like, oh my goodness, I found this book at a used bookstore, read it, and just applied it. And that company ended up going from running 1 clinic to I managed 10 states and 150 clinics, almost 100 million of revenue. And I did the exact same thing as I did with those 2 clinics. So it is applicable across the spectrum. So these are stats around the world in companies that engage with a scaling up coach. They'll have twice the cash of their competitors, 3 times industry profitability, 10x valuation relative to competitors. And you get more time for the right things. And you, as the business owner, define what is that for you. Is the right thing? Is some folks just say, well, hey, I love business. That's my hobby. Great, go for it and make it work better for you. Or is it other hobbies or family or what have you? So, but the results do come, and I've seen it as I've used it in different businesses. Buckminster Fuller is a famous inventor, and he was the president of Mensa, so pretty smart guy. He's got a famous quote, says, "You can't change the way people think. All you can do is give them a tool, the use of which will change their thinking." And that really is a bedrock for scaling up. I said there's 30 plus tools, and the idea is if you have the right tool for the job will be easier. And it's as simple as if I said, hey, I need you to go dig a hole. Here's a shovel, here's a coffee cup, and here's a pen, right? You're gonna use the shovel. You'll use the right tool for the job, and it'll be way easier. But if I said, hey, I need you to dig a hole, and here's a pen, you're gonna be frustrated. The output's not gonna be very good, and you'll be looking at me saying, you gave me something that this doesn't even make sense. So that's why the tools are very, very important. All right, so 3 barriers to growth for you to grow your company, for any company to grow. Number 1 is leadership development, and it is the person in the mirror that you see every single day. It's you. Are you growing as a leader? If you'll grow yourself as a leader, you got a much better chance to grow your business. But it's also all of your employees. If everyone will get a few percent better in their leadership, their self-leadership, your business has a better chance to grow. And then scalable infrastructure. It's that valley of death. You can't go through there without a scalable infrastructure. And you guys know that in your business, you've got to have something that'll get you to that next level. And then marketing effectiveness. Are you able to get your message out to the community that, hey, I've got a product that you should exchange your funds for, and it's going to meet the need that you're looking for. So first poll question, what percent of companies started in the US and to grow to over $1 million of revenue? So answering the poll question so you get your credit, 2054 or less than 1%. Matt, I think the poll, since you popped it up, is not allowing me to move. There we go. Wasn't allowing me to move there for a second. So people decisions, we're going to jump into people and make sure that you walk out of here with a key tool that you can help you in your business. So, yep, 4% is the answer. So very nice. So the key question, are all the stakeholders happy and engaged in your business? That's yourself, your family members that may be working with you, employees, vendors. And then the really key question that puts the rubber to the road, would you enthusiastically rehire all of them? And that answer becomes a key people piece for you. So proven exercises to find your answer. Here's some of the tools. They answer this question: do we have the right people in the right seats doing the right things? And for folks that have read Good to Great, Jim Collins, this is kind of his seminal thing. You got to get the right people on the bus in the right seats. And so if you think about your business in that manner, if you do answer yes to all of those, you give yourself a much better chance to win. So talent assessment chart. This is a very, very key tool that I do with every business. Doesn't matter, we did this in the startup. As I was telling you, when I hired physicians, I was thinking about this. Yeah, I needed A players as physicians to help me win. And so it's the idea is you have A's, B's, and C's, and it doesn't matter what you follow. If it's a sport, if it's a band, right? Your favorite band does not have a C player on one of the instruments or a C player as the lead singer, right? You've got A's. That's how bands, win, and that's how sports teams win. And so the thing here, talent assessment chart, that helps you is you'll put your team members' initials in here and you're going to give a score, a productivity score and a core value score. And productivity is just, hey, when I give Will work to do, is he productive? Does he get it done in the amount of time that I think's allotted? Is it done well? Do I have to send it back to him 4 times to get it done? And it's a 0 to 10. There's some subjectivity there, right? But you're not, someone that you may debate over is someone an 8 or a 9, but you're not debating if they're a 9 or a 3. And then you'll give a core value score. And very, very key, have core values for your business. So important. And then the last piece of this is the action plan. For all of your team, you need to have an action plan. How are you developing them in the next 90 days? Not just a year, but in the next 90 days, what are you going to do for them? And it can be a ton of different things, but you got to invest in your team to drive your business forward. So this is a great tool. And when you give someone a score, we go to there. Let's say you gave me you know, a, a 9, on my productivity, and then an 8 on my core values. I'm an A, right? But if you gave me a 6, on my productivity and a 4 in my core values, I'm a B/C, and that's not a good employee for you, right? It means you're spending time, which is your money and your energy, to try to figure out, trying to move me forward, and you're kind of dragging me along. And your C players, you can't have C players on your team if you think you're going to win, even if they're your family or friends or whatever they may be. All right. Next poll question. What are the 2 competing demands of all businesses? A, people and processes. We talked about that. Sales and marketing, legal and human resources, or vision and execution. Because 2 competing demands, you got to balance those. All right, we're going to jump into strategy. So you'll have that tool that I just went through. You can buy the book. The chapter's 30, 40 pages, really gets deep into that, but I think I've given you enough to really start to think about that. So people and processes, everybody knocked it out of the park. That's awesome. So strategy. Proven strategies from the scaling up methodology. Matt, right after you post those, it won't let me advance the slide for a moment. Let's see if I can. Yeah, there we go. So the key question is, can you simply state your firm's strategy? And strategy is, are we doing the right things to make money, right? Is your strategy driving sustainable growth in revenue and gross margins? And that is the simplest answer, right? If your revenue is flat or declining or not really growing, and it's bumpy, there's likely a strategy thing there. The market is telling you, hey, you haven't bullseyed what we're looking for yet. And then a key piece of this is, can all of your employees state your firm's strategy? So when I work with a team, the executive team, I tell them, hey, if I stood at the door at lunch and as everybody walked out and said, hey, I've got $100, can you tell me what your strategy is? Can everyone tell me? Not the senior leader team, but receptionist, your accountant, whomever, when they walk out, could I give my $100 bill away? And many sheepishly will say no. And I say, well, then you're missing a big opportunity. So the difference in strategy and execution, a lot of people, that can get a little muddy. I think this is the easiest thing. Strategy, are we doing the right things? And then execution, are we doing things right? Very simple way to look at it. And so bunch of different strategy tools, vision. This is a really great tool. It's a vision summary, and what you can do is use this for every single employee in your company. And so we talked about earlier, very important for you to nail your core values and your purpose. Why does your company exist, right? Why did you start it? What is the purpose? What's your mission? What are you trying to do for the market, for the community? And do you feel it? Because you want to hire towards your purpose and your core values. What are the things that you value in your company? That really is important. This is a tool I use every single time in a kickoff with a company because it's so important. Brand promises is another strategic kind of question. And it's what are you promising to the community that if you don't deliver will cost you something? Meaning you're going to give them um, you're going to give them a discount on your services or a money back guarantee or something like that. BHAG, that comes from Jim Collins, Good to Great. What is your big, hairy, audacious goal? What are you trying to do? Steve Jobs called it, putting a dent in the universe. What is your BHAG? And then the cool thing about that is that BHAG maybe 20 years down the road, um, Bill Gates, their BHAG was a personal computer in every household, right? And then you had to back up. And so if your BHAG is whatever, okay, well, if I want to be there in 10 years, where do I want to be in 3 to 5 years? That's that bottom left box or the mid left box. And if I want to be here in 3 to 5, I need to be where in 1 at the end of this year. And then that means what am I doing this quarter? And that is the key piece. If you get everybody rowing in the same direction this quarter, you got 10 employees and all 10 know exactly what their priorities are this quarter, which is now the bottom. Everybody in the company can have this bottom section filled out. What are their KPIs? How am I going to be measured? What outcome did I produce for the company? And then it comes all the way over to my quarterly priorities. That means, no more than 5, but what am I doing this quarter, right? And to move the company forward. And so this is a fantastic tool. Um, First, the owners need to get on the same page, and then all the way through your organization where you've got 3 people or 300. I use this with all my teams that I'm working with. And you'd be surprised how many senior executive teams that I'll get in with a CEO, COO, CFO, they don't know the purpose or they don't know the core values. I met with a medical practice. They had, I think, 9 people on their executive team, and no one knew the core values. And yet they told me they lived it and had a great culture, which is that is a break. It doesn't work. So this is a fantastic tool for you. It's called the Vision Summary. And you can use this for every single person in your team. What you would love to do is fill out those top colored sections and then work with that so everyone knows, hey, this is where we're going, the core values, this is what we want. And then you interview and you hire towards that. And then everybody's got their own that they can pop up in their cube or in their office that says, okay, this is what I'm doing the next 90 days. And that's where I said, let the tool do the work. Once you sit with me and we agree what I'm going to go do, it's my job as a part of the team to row the boat in that direction as hard as I can to produce the things that I've said I'm going to do. And it makes your one-on-ones with your team crystal clear. Am I on track for my priority? I said I was going to do X. Am I on track? Yep, I'm on track. I'm knocking it out. Or, hey, I've hit a roadblock and this is what I need from you as my boss to do this kind of thing. And so really, really great tool. All right, next question. According to Scaling Up, which is not a main barrier to scaling your business? Give you a second to look at that. And then we're going to jump into execution. Matt, I'll let you pop that up for us. And yeah, it's B is not a main barrier. Remember, it's leadership development, scalable infrastructure. That's that valley of death we talked about in marketing effectiveness. And the leadership development is a really, really key one, right? Because it's as I look in the mirror, am I developing myself? But proper standard operating procedures, we need those, but that's not a main barrier, right? All right, so execution decisions. Jump into there. The key question here, and it's funny how many folks, when I ask this question of business owners or in a workshop, or if I'm sitting with someone and we're talking about working with me, are all your processes running without drama and driving industry leading profitability? And the amount of times people will chuckle, laugh, roll their eyes, say, I wish, all of those kind of things. Because you put 2 people in a room, you get friction sometimes, you get a, difference of opinion, and then you've got your customers calling, you've got all sorts of things. And so how do you limit that drama? Because it's costing you money. It goes back to what we talked about, win twice. If it's drama all day, every day in your business, you're not winning, right? You go home, you feel like you're worn out. You get done on Friday and you're driving home, and you get that little thought bubble from a cartoon in your brain that's saying, what in the world happened? What did I get done this week? That's a great part of an operating system, and scaling up, I think, is fantastic, because you can know when you walk out on Friday, did you win? And that's what you want for every one of your employees, whether you've got 3 or 50, you want them to know when they walked out on Friday afternoon, I won this week. And the more folks that can answer that question, the better off your business is going to be. So again, a bunch of different tools, and I thought, for all of these, I thought, what are the things that are probably the most attainable and make the most difference? And meeting rhythms, regular recurring meeting rhythms are so vital. And this is probably the one that, as I work with teams, there's initially pushback. Nobody decides, hey, I don't buy that about A players. So look, you follow a football team. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. Do you think they did it with a bunch of C players? No, they had A's, right? You like X band, they were A's. This one, especially the daily huddle, it's very tactical. Should take 5 to 15 minutes. I usually tell folks, a minute, 90 seconds max per person. Um, but a daily huddle is an absolute critical piece of the communication rhythm in your business. And I've, you know, over and over and over, hear CEOs and business owners initially tell me, well, gosh, we're in different time zones, we're not in the same place. Like, that's what Zoom and Teams are for, all of those kind of things. It will dramatically improve the rhythm of operation in your practice. And then weekly, those are the two big ones I'm going to look at as your priorities. That daily huddle dramatically changes your weekly meeting, because now you're actually not fighting all the fires, because daily you kind of know what's going on. And then weekly, you're actually working on the things that move the business forward. Monthly is your big issues. You'll pull out, if revenue's down, you've got to figure out, okay, maybe the big issue is we got the wrong strategy, but you're spending a half to a full day really trying to figure that out. And then quarterly is strategy. Are we doing the right things for the market? And that's a 1 to 2 day meeting. And so which is what I do with clients, is I do quarterly meetings with them. I'm doing the weekly with the president or CEO, whomever it may be. So your daily 15-minute agenda. And if you think you don't have time for this, the best companies in the world do this all over the world. Ritz-Carlton, if you ever stay in one, every one of those teams huddles every single day. So your daily, what's the good news? It can be personal or professional, right? A lot of times teams will call it a stand up, because you don't even sit down, right? We're just knocking this thing out. What's the good news? What am I working on in the next 24 hours? Doing this morning, what am I working on? I am working on finishing the contract with ABC Manufacturing. And now everybody in the team knows that is what I am getting done in the next 24 hours. Right. And then maybe my CFO is going to speak up to that and says, hey, I need to let you know that I talked to the CEO yesterday, and I'll update you later. Right. Bam, we knocked it out. There's no 4 emails back and forth. How are your daily metrics? What am I responsible for the company? If it's marketing and it's, LinkedIn impressions, talking to one of my teams yesterday, their LinkedIn impressions are moving up, because now our marketing team knows exactly their daily metric, right? And so now that gets tracked. And he told me, it's like, the last 3 weeks since we defined that, it's better and better and better, because now she knows exactly what she's responsible for. I'm responsible for X number per week. That means per day. So Friday afternoon, she walks out, and then now she's every day letting the team know. And then where are you stuck? So very, very quick. Me explaining it should take longer than the actual huddle, for sure, or my explanation inside there. So daily 15 minutes. One more story. Team that I worked with, leadership team of 6 folks. different time zones, not in the same state. The VP of sales is like, look, I'm in my car all the time. I'm visiting, I'm riding along, on and on and on. I was like, look, Ritz-Carlton has people walking in that hotel 24/7. They figure it out. So does Google. So does, on and on and on. And so they started doing it. And 6 weeks in, the president, who was really, really hands-on, and he was even kind of pushed back. He's like, look, I talk to these people all day, every day. Like, I know this agenda will change it. And in 6 weeks, his answer to me was, I cannot believe how much better I know what's going on in our business. This is a just shy of a $40 million business. I can't believe how much more I know and have a grasp of what's going on. And so can't recommend it to you enough. Start tomorrow. Weekly 60 to 90-minute agenda. You're pulling your team together in one word. How are you doing? Right? I'm stressed. I'm fatigued, I'm excited, whatever, right? So now you don't wonder, oh, Will's quiet today, he's mad at me about something. It's, hey, no, I'm very thoughtful. Or, my mom, I got a call over the weekend, she's sick, so I'm a little stressed about that, right? And you review your purpose, your values, your promise, your theme, something in there, review, so everybody's in lockstep. Because when you walk out of there, you got to be rowing in the same direction. 20 seconds. Good news in the clinic, in your business, in your personal life. We just did as gratitude, as in my last company as a CEO. What are you grateful for today? And be whatever it is. You review your top KPIs. Everybody's got their KPIs. They walk in, you've got a scoreboard. It's red, yellow, or green. We pop it up. I go through mine. If mine's green, we don't even talk about it. It's like, hey, high five, good job. Why is that one yellow? Well, it's yellow because I was out 3 days sick last week and I didn't get that, but it'll be green this week. Great. So I know. And then now if it's red, we all put our heads together to figure out, how do we move this thing forward? Because we're on a 90-day quarterly cadence. Any emergencies or challenges and what's coming up this week, so that we're all on the same page about what we're doing. And that cadence will drive your business forward. So that's your execution tool. All right, cash, proven strategies from the methodology here. And the question is, do you have consistent sources of cash, ideally generated internally, to fuel the growth of your business? So if you think about, you want to grow, remember we talked about our 1, 3, and 5-year plan. If I said, hey, in 3 years, I want to go from 3 accountants to 6. Okay, well, that's going to be a cash drain, right, for me. And so, am I going to have the cash at my current level to get to that point? And so then I start to really understand what is the cash. Growth sucks cash, so I've got to be thinking through that. Ideally internally, that we fund it ourselves. Or if we've got the business is doing well and we can go and work with a banker, we could get it there, but it's cheaper to fund it ourselves often. And so can we fuel that? Can we meet those goals? Again, there's multiple tools. This is the one that I just pop up because I think it's such a, it's just a great picture, and you can spend weeks on this with your team. The cash conversion cycle. I was just in a meeting with a banker who was presenting to some business owners the other day, and he started talking about his cash conversion cycle. I said, man, that is a tool. This is a basic tool we work with every business. And you're looking at the time it takes for a dollar to leave your business, and then how quickly does it come back in. And so if you can shorten all of these key places, your cash flow is improving. And so can you shorten the cycle times, kind of the bottom right there? Can you shorten cycle times? Can you eliminate mistakes? Can you improve your business model and your P&L? So sales cycle, can I shorten my sales cycle? If my sales cycle is 90 days and I shorten it to 45, or I shorten it to 70, right? So that, I can work with my sales team and say, okay, how can we shorten that cycle? How can we shorten the delivery cycle? If it takes me 2 months to deliver the product, what if I can deliver it in 50 days, right? Now, and then my billing and payment cycle. If my AR is sitting out for 100 days, can I get that to 90 and then 80 and then 70? And so driving that back, if I shorten all of those, my dollar comes back more quickly. Um, and a lot of times people don't see that, hey, every time you have a mistake, I work with a lot of medical practices and try to help them see that, when you have a mistake as a physician, just was with a physician practice a few weeks ago, and they've got some EMR issues, of course, and one of the docs was very hesitant. He didn't like the way you gave prescriptions to patients. So he was kind of doing a one-off thing and it worked for him. And in the team meeting, as we started talking, what he was doing required 3 other people to touch it, right? Well, 3 total. He would do it as a one-off. His medical assistant would have to go in and fix stuff. And then billing would also have to go in and fix stuff. And he didn't know that. And in using this, I said, you're having 3 people touch one thing for a prescription for a patient. That every time you do that, that's costing you money. And you want to grow the practice, just doing that is costing you money. You've got to go in and use the system the way it doesn't work efficiently. I'm like, it may not work efficiently, but when you do that, it's done correctly. And it takes you what? It probably took him 30 seconds longer, 45 seconds, he said, right? I got to look up this and that. I'm like, I know, but that 30, 45 seconds does not mean 3 other people have to touch it. And so he did get on board because he saw that. So um, this is a great tool. You guys look at it in your business, and see where you can shorten that and it increase your cash flow. It's amazing the difference in what it'll happen in a business. All right. So there you go. People, strategy, execution, and cash. Hopefully we got some questions in the chat because I think we're right on time to be able to do a little bit of Q&A. This is Lewis Carroll. Again, if you don't know where you want to go, it doesn't matter which path you take. So really get some time to sit and think about your business. Where do you want to be? What are the recurring kind of things that are costing you money, right? All of those mistakes cost you money. Every time you have to fix a mistake or you lose an employee because of whatever's going on in the practice, be thinking about hiring an A player. Is this a person that's going to be an A player? So you need a methodology on how to hire. I'm working with a medical practice. They had a surgeon leave the practice because it was so inefficient on the execution side of the business. And the replacement in the HR space is 1.5 to 2 times the annual salary for those folks. And I said, I don't know what the guy makes, but he was a surgeon. I said, my guess is that is probably a 1.5 to $3 million mistake because you didn't fix your execution issues. The guy just finally, he had been telling them, I'm not doing this anymore, right? I'm spending so much time spinning my wheels. It takes time away from my wife and my kids. I'm frustrated. He just finally left. And I said to practice, I'm like, that's a couple $1 million mistake. So thinking about that, it costs you money. Lastly, here we can answer some questions around that. You guys will get this so you can see, and then you can jump into the Be Insightful team and have some questions around that. This will give you a little bit in this webinar of, we'll dive deeper into those tools. So, for the 8 companies, we would go into that talent assessment really, really strongly. You'd go away with some homework and you come in the next month and you would have gone through your homework. You would have decided where your A's, B's, and C's are. And then you'll set some goals of, when I work with my teams, I say, look, you want 90% of your team to be an A player. The other 10% can be B's, and the C's, they need to be somewhere else, right? Not in your team. And so Disney calls it seek your happiness elsewhere, right? And, so anyway, that'll give you a little bit of an idea of the mastermind, what we're going to do. Keep scaling, and thanks for the time, for your attention. And Gary's back. So Gary, we have any questions or thoughts folks want to jump in?
Yeah, a couple of questions. One is actually, since you have the shot of the book there, where can somebody get that book?
Yeah, you can get it off of Amazon. There's a brand new one that just came out about, I don't know if you can see on my ear, but it's called Start to Scale. And Vern, Start to Scale, this book is Start to Scale is only 130 pages. I have my teams read that to start now versus Scaling Up, but they're both fantastic. So Scaling Up's kind of probably the master's PhD level. It's probably 30, $40 on Amazon. And then Start to Scale is the new one, much easier. It's kind of a higher level. Um, but it goes through a lot of, what we just talked about, each section.
Yeah. And so, as I mentioned on the front end of this, it's a high level, view of what scaling up and the process is all about. A lot of the firms and, individuals who would be on here or in our audience are, similar to us, smaller businesses, a couple of people. Um, how would somebody, and you and I've had this discussion, but how would somebody who is a smaller firm with with a small handful of people approach this product, and how would you guide them to approach not the product but this system, because it's pretty involved. I've the book that you have up, we got that through your session, but
Yep.
it's very involved. There's a lot there. And what's the approach? How does somebody start implementing? They've listened to this, like, wow, he said so many things that make so much sense, but it's me and one other person. How do we do any of it?
Yeah, I think well we call it self-implementing, and that's basically what I did, right? I came across this book in a used bookstore. I was a little bit like the dog that caught the car saying, what do I do now? I got in this promotion. I was running one clinic, it was doing well. I get a promotion to run two others, and they were not doing well. We were owned by a publicly traded company, and I just self-implemented. I read the book and just devoured it. And when I looked at it, I thought, okay, someone has put this together for a guy like me. I don't have any business experience, but I'm opinionated. I've got core values and how I wanted my clinic to run. So I self-implemented. So that's what I would say to folks is get the book, self-implement. But you'll go farther faster with a coach.
Mhm.
There's no one that you watch, that doesn't have a coach, right? Rory McIlroy, I don't even golf, but I watched the last 2, 3 hours of the Masters. I never even heard this. The guy has two different He's got a putting coach and a whatever driver coach or whatever, right? I don't
Right.
golf. It's like, okay, now you're getting down to two. I guess I'll have a sand trap coach or whatever. So you'll go farther faster with a coach. I've used it for 18 years. But if you're going to do it on your own, I'd say buy the book, look at those four things of what's my limiting constraint. um Let me let's go back. What's my limiting constraint? People, strategy, execution, and cash. And then target that. If I go in and just say, man, I would not enthusiastically rehire everybody on my team, then you have a people issue. You may have the best product in the world, but if you have poor salespeople or whatever it may be, you're not going to win. So I would go in and figure out, okay, if people is my issue, then I'd go read the chapter on people. I'd go look at the tools, and then figure out how do I get better players on my team? How do I learn to interview better? And when I read this, I learned to interview better. And we've all done it, right? I hire someone and I think I'm getting X, and then 90 days in, I'm like, this person's nothing like I thought I was getting, right? And I was hiring physical
Where's the person?
therapists,
Yeah.
and I think I had 4 or 5 states at that point, and it was just like, I'd hire these people. It's like, oh, I just want to be on a team, and I want it. I want to be a great teammate. And 90 days in, it's like, it's all about me. And if, the world revolves around. And so I went and said, okay, I got to learn to interview better. And that helped me get better people, which dramatically changed my results. So I'd say any company, figure out what is your limiting constraint, read that chapter and go tackle that. And
Perfect.
if you have
I
three
mean,
people, start with a huddle, you know, um, start with a huddle, you know.
yeah. And I would say that that is what I mean, we've gone through the book and we've gone through different sections of the book, but um, the huddle, again. I mentioned it before, a bit of our challenge is we're spread around literally around the globe. And so we're having numerous huddles a day, right? Because of everybody's on different schedules, and most of the people that work with us are all contractors, so it's hard for us to say, oh, you have to be here at this time if you're not on a regular work schedule. Um, so that's been a bit of a challenge for us, but it's one that in the short period of time is paying dividends. So if you've sat through this, listen to Will talk, if you don't buy the book, if you walk out the door and just think, whatever, do the huddle. And it's so funny because every time we have our meetings, or Bill, you've met my business partner, Bob, um, you know, it's my fault that we're doing this now. Uh, and we know it's going to pay dividends, but he is the driver on it. I mean, he is just that squeaky wheel that just won't stop, and it's beneficial. And again, Matt, if he, wanted to chime in, could probably say whether it's as somebody who's been part of getting this implemented, um, whether it's been beneficial. I think it's helped even, everybody on the team understand better what we're trying to accomplish as a company and what their role is in getting us to where we need to go. So it, again, can't recommend it highly enough. Well, let me see if there's any other questions. I think we're good to go. Make sure I didn't miss anything. So I think we are good. If you wanted CPE, and you qualify, certificate will follow again within about 24 hours. Will, how do people reach you if they wanted to reach out to you directly?
Yeah, Will Hall 3 at Comcast.net. I'm about 95% with my new website. I was working with another group that have done this, so I thought I'd have it today, but I don't. But Will Hall 3 at Comcast.net, shoot me that, and would be glad to have a conversation, talk about what a mastermind would look like. Glad to help. Let me one thing. This was when you talked about the huddle. Everybody may not be in the same huddle, right? Like you said, right? You may have, marketing may do a huddle. The senior team should be on the huddle. So if it's three partners or whatever, they need to be on a huddle. You got to know what's going on with that. But I have a medical practice. They really struggled initially, and I figured out they're trying to put 22 people in one huddle. And I was like, the exec team's got to have the huddle, right? They've got an exec team of 4. Then they did all their medical assistants, they were separate. And then one of the physicians, the founding physician, though, said when they changed it, the huddles were great, but he said, I want once a week where we're all in a room together as a huddle. And so they've done what worked for them, but I think it's Thursdays, they're all everyday huddle. One of their employees kind of does a little devotion or shares kind of a cool story. They talk about a patient or something. And, that was a core value for him is he treats his team like a family, And so he was like, this works. And the practice manager called me. He's like, is that okay? I'm like, if it works for you, right? It's not that rigid, but have an operating system for your business. It needs to work for you for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, Will, thank you so much. Everybody who attended, we certainly appreciate you being here. And if you're interested in joining that cohort, let us know.